Hello, I'm Kirsty Young, and this is a podcast from the Desert Island Discs archive. For rights reasons, we've had to shorten the music. The programme was originally broadcast in 2001, and the presenter was Sue Lawley.
My castaway this week is an entertainer. Seeing him in one of his more recent performances as Queen Victoria's protective gilly in the film Mrs. Brown, it's hard to believe that the actor is also one of our most outrageous comedians. But then he's a man who's come a long way, from a deprived, often brutal upbringing on Clydeside, through a hard apprenticeship as a club and pub entertainer, and a long battle with alcohol, to a hugely successful career on stage and small screen, a happy marriage, and finally distinguished performances in well-received feature films. The man who persuaded the British public to laugh at vomit, sex and bad language has become, in the way of enfance terrible, a respectable performer. Or has he? If your knickers are down, you're funny, he says. I love life with my knickers down. He is Billy Connolly.
I didn't remember saying that.
That's a good one. But it's true, isn't it? You're still a hellraiser at heart, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
You've still got that appetite for danger.
I seem to think that way. You know, I don't set out to be a hellraiser, but things I think are normal seem to raise a bit of hell with the beige crowd, you know.
You're not in the beige cardigans yet.
No, I'm not a beige cardi, and I upset them terribly, extremely easily.
But I read you like housework, you like cooking. I mean,
yes,
this is quite
I do.
beige of you.
I
really.
love to cook. No, beiges don't do that.
Do they?
No, a beige would be reading a magazine while his wife made horrible food, you know, grey beige food.
But talking about life with your knickers down makes it sound quite benign, really. And of course, that's not what it was like or has been like. I don't know what is. I haven't seen you recently on stage. I mean, doing the stand-up. It was very, very dangerous. It was shocking. It was frightening. It was worrying.
Yes.
Is it still?
It's more angry now.
Is it?
Than anything. Anger, I get great solace in anger. Like, if people are dropping bombs and food on the same night, you can't control it. Well, I can't control my rage at the impossible stupidity of it. So I get angry and I go for it.
But you've always been angry. I mean, there's nothing different about that. The kind of anger in you is what's always been there.
It's always fueled me, yeah.
Yeah, and the psychology of that is, and we're allowed to do this because your wife, Pam,
absolutely, you can do it.
Is that when you're in the spotlight, she says you're gaining mastery, you're triumphing over your father and your mother and your aunt and all those vicious school teachers, and that's the analysis. I mean, do you buy that?
Sometimes the worthless stupid is you buy into it at the time, and it's very comfortable. You say, well, that's where I sit on the scale of things. I'm one of the stupid guys. I was kind of stupid but savable. There's 4 rows in the class, the clever and then not quite so clever, stupid but savable and stupid. And I was the stupid but savable mob, really, you know, because I could write and stuff like that. So I was okay because the guys in that row were quite fun. I quite liked them.
But what she's saying is that you're now truly happy and only truly happy when you're in the spotlight, raging in that way, because you're having another chance to get out of that row of being labelled stupid. Well, if the truth be known,
I actually live in there. No, really. I say and do things and my body moves in a way up there that's quite foreign. Sometimes when I'm doing it, I think, why are you doing this? You know, you can actually split your personality a wee bit and have a look at yourself. When I'm charging across the stage doing something.
You're possessed.
Aye.
You're driven.
That's right. It's like being possessed.
But you're going to have a terrible time on this desert island because there's nobody to laugh at you. I mean, you probably...
Oh, I don't need people.
Don't you?
No.
You can make yourself laugh.
I am so happy when I'm alone.
Tell me about your first record.
Oh, these are my heroes. Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs. Earl Scruggs is the best banjo player in the world. He invented this style that he plays in, and Lester Flatt was the guitarist. When I found them, I found my kind of purpose. I thought, that's what I want to play.
Flattened Scruggs and Foggy Mountain Breakdown. The sound of the banjo, which is what got you going on Clyde's. But you heard it and you knew.
Oh, I heard. The first one I heard was Pete Seeger. And that's what made me go and buy a banjo.
So you ended up playing the banjo in front of people, but when did you actually discover that what you really did, although you went on playing the banjo, was make them laugh?
There was a fellow teaching me, a guy called Jim Steele, and he was showing me bits and pieces. He liked the way I played, and he said, listen, I've got a gig on Sunday in Paisley in the Attic. And that was a good club at the time, you know. And he said, do you want to come and do it with me? And I had learned this song, St. Brendan's Isle. It's really about the journey of St. Brendan, and he thought it was an island they found and he stood on it and it was a whale and all that, and it was a smashing song. But I didn't know singing was so hard. Like, talking when you're nervous is one thing, but singing when you're nervous. So I was making a kind of fool of it, and I was so nervous that it just blanked after about a verse and a half. And I said to them, oh, listen, I've forgotten the words. And there was a kind of titter in the audience. So I said, but what I remember of the song is, and I started to tell them the story of the song. I was just trying to survive. I said, so the guy finds an island and he gets off his boat and steps on it. And then he realises his island is sailing along. And by this time, they're roaring. They can't believe it, you know. And I thought, oh,
you got it. Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. But you'd stood up in front of people. You'd worked in the shipyard. You'd kind of been forced to perform there, hadn't you?
Well, there was lots of guys who were funny in the shipyard. You know, in Glasgow they call it pattern merchant. It might be universal, I don't know. And there was some weird guys who actually performed at lunchtime. There was a guy called the Great Voltaine. He had a silver-painted welder's helmet and electric light bulbs.
But what was the pattern?
He would say to people, think of a number. And tell me your number. 17. Correct! You know. Just the man was mentally ill.
But I thought this was where you developed your kind of drunken act, because your drunk, you know, was never just sort of
the singing
speech.
drunk. They used to make me sing that, Harry Hall, you know. So I used to do this, and they called it gallus singing. And they would call me over, hey, Billy. And at tea time, we always sit in the sandwich, give us one of them gallus songs. And I used to sing like them, and they loved it.
Tell me about your next record.
This is Over the Sea to Sky, the Sky Boat song, which is the first song I remember liking on the radio when I was a wee boy. It was the first song I remember made me jump out my chair and march around or dance, jump up and down.
The regimental band and the massed pipes of the Scots Guards playing the Skyboat song, and memories for you, Billy Connolly, of being little in Scotland in wartime. You were born in 42.
I was born in 42.
Yeah. I don't want to take you through the terrible details of this awful, unhappy childhood, but I mean, just give me a why and how were you made to feel so worthless and so useless?
My aunt, there was something wrong with my aunt. She was eventually found to be schizophrenic and stuff. But my mother left when I was 4. It was the middle of the war, and I've never held it against her ever, you know. I can see it. I think I might have done the same. She was a teenager. Germans were bombing the town. My father was in India, and we lived in a slum place, Dover Street in Anderston in Glasgow. So she left with this guy.
But she'd been pretty neglectful of you before that, hadn't she?
I think she was a child. I think most of my childhood, I was the victim of children who looked like adults. But this Auntie Mona, she liked to humiliate me. She loved to humiliate me, and every day she would tell me that I was stupid and worthless, and she would like to do it in front of people and stuff. And then we'd go to school, and I get this monster of a teacher, Big Rosie MacDonald, and she got such joy from whacking people with this leather belt. She would do a sort of back-heeled kick when she did it, and she kicked a big hole in the desk.
I gather somebody came up to you quite recently and said
God, I'm sorry for the guy. It was a brother or something. My daughter was graduating. We were in this wee place at Glasgow University, this wee garden with strawberry tarts and all trying to be terribly civilised. And this man came over with his family behind him, and he said, I believe a relative of mine taught you at school. And I said, oh, really? Who was that? And he said, Rosie MacDonald. I said, she was a psychopath. She wasn't a teacher. And he said, oh, well, she was a bit peculiar. He said, no, don't get it wrong. She was and I went for it, and I told him like it is. And I kind of regret it, because he had nothing to do with it, but it just clicked something in me. Because she
So for all your understanding now, which is what you're displaying, all your understanding of it, and I know that you've talked about it a lot to Pamela, who's now a psychoanalyst, isn't she? It's all in there, isn't it? Just that little trigger. You hear the name and off you go.
Fly off, I just... It's because... To humiliate someone is a desperately bad and wrong thing. It's worse than hitting somebody. Humiliation is forever. It takes you so long to get over it. It takes your whole life.
Confidence is not your strong suit, therefore.
Not my big thing.
No, but is that true?
Yes, yeah.
What, you lack confidence, Billy
I
Connolly?
do indeed, yeah.
But when you were very little, when you were just a small boy at school and so on, what saved you? Because, we talked about physical abuse and we've talked about humiliation. It got worse than that. There were darker bits than that with your father and so on, weren't there? What saved you? How did you cope? I mean...
My sister.
Really?
Yeah, Flo was my guardian. She looked after me all my life. She used to hit people for me, bullies and stuff. Big girls who were picking on me, she'd belt them around. And at night, Flo would sing. We used to lie in bed and sing, I see the moon sees me. And there's a pawn shop round the corner in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and songs like that.
Does she mind you talking about it all?
Well, I told my sister about the sexual abuse right after my father died. And I told Pamela as well. And I had told a couple of people very secretively as I grew up. The trouble was I'd never confronted my father. But I learned later that very, very few people do. And as a matter of fact, Flo is more hurt by what happened to me than I am. She's much, much more wounded than me because she thinks she should have protected me from that. And she wasn't there.
Record number 3.
Oh, great. This is my lifestyle hero, Hank Williams. On the back of his albums, he had a wee man called Luke the Drifter. He was just a little drawing with a guitar over his shoulder walking into the sunset, and I thought, that's who I'd like to be.
And when I find me that river, Lord, I'm gonna pay the price, oh Lord. I'm going down in it 3 times, but Lord, I'm only coming up twice. She's long gone, and now I'm lonesome blue.
Hank Williams singing Long Gone Lonesome Blues. That's a yodel. Huh?
Oh, that's a lovely yodel. The cowboy's the only one.
You can do that, can you?
Oh, I can. I taught myself when I was a wee boy from that record.
But going back to the act and where the humour comes from, of course, all of that stuff we've just been talking about in your childhood, you used a lot, really, in your act, haven't you?
Yes.
Kids being walloped round their head with wet towels and
yes,
things.
I basically have told the story of my life on stage.
Yeah, but we never knew that's what it was.
A lot of people didn't know.
I mean, I suppose all the clues were there all along, really, weren't they?
Yeah, well, I wasn't aware that I was doing it either. When I was picking out things to laugh at, and I knew they were observations of mine from my life around me, but I didn't see the big game. It's much healthier when you don't realise, and you're just digging around.
But
and
what does
having
it
a
say
laugh.
about humour? What it says is that you are funny when you're vulnerable, because that's really what you're experiencing.
That's the basis, I think, of my kind of humour anyway, when someone is vulnerable, and that's what I said about when your knickers are down. I used to do a thing, when people are in the bathroom, they forget their name, because if someone shoves the door and you panic, you're sitting in the bathroom and the door goes, people in there, they'll say, there's somebody in, even in their own house. There's somebody in here. They don't say, it's me, Elizabeth, or John. Or there's somebody in.
Why do we do that?
Because you're incredibly vulnerable.
So you dealt all that time, for years into your very successful career with your vulnerability by using it, as we say in your act, without quite knowing. But eventually you sit down with Pamela and you tell her all about it. I mean, was she the catalyst?
Yes.
I mean, factually then, not to make her... Well, I don't know, perhaps you made her laugh while you told her the real story.
Oh, no, I didn't. I did sometimes, about other bits and pieces, but the darker side was quite hard.
But is it better confronting yourself with the real facts, the true facts?
Yeah,
You've been sort of gliding over and using all these.
It's not difficult.
Does it make you feel better or worse?
It makes you feel much better.
Does it?
Yeah, because you're carrying it around like a rucksack full of bricks for your whole life. And the more you do it, the more you feel you've got something to hide. That you've got a big boil in the back of your neck, but you wear this big scarf all the time. And so you get a guilt from it that you really shouldn't have because you were the victim of something. And it's not pleasant when you're doing it because it's very painful to revisit things and to remember the details so as you can write about it properly. And you have to tell the truth because it's completely worthless otherwise.
So how has it changed you then? So you've dumped the rucksack, you've lanced the foil.
I've dumped it, but it isn't so long since I dumped it, but I feel as if I'm out of jail.
Do you?
Yeah. It's a lovely feeling, yeah. There was a kind of film over me and it's gone.
Next piece of music, number 4.
Oh, now talk about getting out of jail. This is Little Richard Tutti Frutti. Now, when this happened in around 1957... I was at the Brownies dance, and one of the big girl guides had this. It was an Elvis record she had, but this was there as well, and this is the one that blew me. Up until then, it had been truly, truly fair, and all that. And then this came along, and I thought, oh, life begins here.
I got a girl named Sue. She knows just what to do. I got a girl named Sue. She knows just what to do. She rock to the east, she rock to the west, but she's the girl that I love best.
Little Richard and Tutti Frutti. So that sort of felt as if it was the beginning of stuff that belonged to you. Because before that, you'd have been listening to what, Perry Como or Pat Boone? Or
Pat Boone and all of those guys.
Kenneth McKellar, you had.
Oh, Kenneth. Well, Kenneth is great, you see. And Johnny Ray, Crying
in the Rain, yeah.
Brilliant. Getting soaking wet.
But they were all in suits and collars and ties.
Aye, and they all sang about getting married.
That's right. But I mean, when you hit the stage, well, I know it was the folk stuff as well, but nevertheless, you were, it seems to me, ahead of your time, weren't you? If that's what you call it. But the drain pipes, I suppose, was the Teddy Boy influence.
Yes.
But nevertheless, you were there before a lot of people.
I was indeed.
That kind of gear.
Well, the trouble was I was too hairy and wild for the cabaret circuit, the clubs, and they hated what I did. They thought I was dirty and weird, which was very strange.
Well, you were.
I still don't see it as dirty and weird. I call a spade when I'm on stage, and if I talk about sex, I'm talking about sex and bits of the body that are funny. But they, on the other hand, the guys who were doing cabaret were talking about Pakistani neighbours and how stupid the Irish were and how thick mother-in-laws are and how this and how... I found them deeply offensive, those guys. But they found me offensive too. They thought, oh, that's dirty. And I've had that all along from dirty people. I embarrass dirty people.
But at some point you gave up the day job, you stopped the welding.
Aye.
And it got better and better, actually, because you wrote a rock musical in the end.
Aye, I did. I wrote a musical, The Great Northern Welly Boot Show. Me and Tom Buchan, a poet from Edinburgh, and it blew the fringe away. It was lovely.
Exactly. That transferred, I think, into the Young Vic, didn't it?
That's right.
Very, very successful. And then you appeared on The Parkinson Show.
Then I appeared
1972,
on The Parkinson Show, yeah.
Saturday night, huh?
I was doing quite well until then. I was playing in England in half-filling halls, 2/3. Every time I did it, I got more and more and more. And then I did the parky, and the whole thing went haywire.
Because you told a dirty joke.
Aye, because I told a good joke. It's nothing. The nothing dirty but bums and bicycles.
No, I don't mean dirty in the pejorative sense, but it was a dirty joke, which your manager, I think, had told you not to tell.
Whatever you do, he said, if you do nothing else, don't tell that bloody joke. And
so what is it? In that, it's a kind of instinctive naughtiness, isn't it?
Just do it, do it. There's a wee devil in you that goes, do it. Come on. And the Americans call it pushing the envelope. I don't know why. You just shove it a wee bit forward all the time. Take it somewhere it's never been, somewhere you've never been, because it's great. And sometimes when I'm on stage and it's getting boring, I'm doing the same thing every night, I'll change the position of two stories so as I have to link them a different way. I
want to talk to you about that, because I know you never write anything down, do you?
Never.
And I want to talk to you about it. But let's pause for some more music. Number 5.
Oh, this is the most beautiful thing. And it's Across the Universe by the Beatles, but it reminds me so much of John Lennon. I just love the chorus. We'll hear it when it comes.
Across the Universe, sung by the Beatles. Your wife, Pam, talks about arriving with you backstage when there's a huge, great audience out the front, and you saying, what am I going to talk to them about?
Yes.
Are you just teasing her then, or is that when you have your nerves? Or
No. What I do is every tour, I intend to go on with the stuff that I ended the last tour with and take it somewhere else. But I can't remember it. I've got this weird kind of memory thing that I don't hold information for very long. But when I go out and talk about it, it all comes back. But sometimes it doesn't come back in order.
It's kind of memory dyslexia.
Aye, so it comes back, but which makes it much more interesting. It's like somebody giving you a big pile of letters, like a mountain on a table, and saying, well, that's the Bible. But you can put it together yourself.
Sort it out.
Right.
Yeah. And what you do when you get out there is unpredictable in every way, including in length. You never quite know how
No, I don't know.
And sometimes you can be out there for, I don't know how long.
3 hours.
Really?
2.5 usually, but it got to 3 hours at the end of the tour.
What do you do then after that when you go? I can't imagine you have a nice glass of hot milk and go to bed.
Well, I used to get drunk, I used to get gin and tonics, and well, it depended on the tour. I would have a brandy tour and a whiskey tour and a gin tour. Because that way, when you're drinking all that, you stay high and you can go till 3, 4 in the morning. But when I stopped all that stuff, I find I come down really quick. I sit with Steve, my manager, backstage, and we don't talk. We just sit there. He reads sometimes, and I look at the table and have a cup of tea.
Because that was something else you got from your dad, of course, wasn't it? Alcoholism.
I think so. Well, I come from a long line of drunk people, yeah, and it's good fun.
And how long have you been off it?
17 years, I think.
Not touched a drop?
No, not a sausage. I did once. Somebody gave me vodka instead of water as a joke, and he didn't know, that I was off the booze and all that. And another time, a woman gave me whiskey in my porridge once on the Isle of Arran. I asked for porridge, and she said, how about porridge royale? And I said, what the hell's that? But I just had a big mouthful, and it was whiskey in it. And the funniest thing happens. It's like alarm bells go off because your body says, now you're talking. Right.
Still.
That's the one. Come on, let's go. And my fingers tingle and my stomach goes all butterfly-y. And it lasts all day. Yippee! Now you're talking. Here we go.
So how do you fight? I mean, enormous amount of willpower.
You have to really be strong, and because you try and flick back quickly to what it did to you before. You have to have a picture in your mind of what it did to you before.
What's the one picture you have then in that moment?
The one picture I have is it was an evening I spent in a, what do you call an undertaker's place? In an undertaker's place. I met him in a pub and I was blitzed. I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm an undertaker. And I said, oh, wow. And I said, I've never touched a dead guy since I was a little boy. I said, how do dead people feel? And so we ended up down there opening coffins and touching the dead to see how they felt. And oh, my God, I thought, I've got to change. This is, you let yourself go terribly. Your standards plummet. Your taste in women doesn't have change.
Number 6.
Number 6. Ooh, this is Bob Dylan. Now, I love him. I love his songs. I've been on television with him and I've met him and stuff. And he never knows me when he meets me, and we always part the best of friends. And this is a wee song my girls like. It's called Highlands, or My Heart's in the Highlands, because he mentions Aberdeen, and we've got a house in Aberdeenshire.
Well, my heart's in the Highlands, gentle and fair, honeysuckle blooming in the wildwood air, bluebells blazing where the Aberdeen waters flow.
Bob Dylan and Highlands. You live on the West Coast now, you and the family, and
I
you have
do, yeah.
done for more than 10 years. You went to kind of conquer America because you thought that's what you ought to do.
I thought that's what I should be doing.
Yeah, well, and you did it.
I am okay. I do rather well.
But you never came back.
No.
Why didn't you come back?
Because I was very comfortable where I was. I've always said home is where the mortgage is. You just go home. Home is a place where you're allowed to be boring, basically, and sit in your bum and smoke your cigars and play your banjo.
And wear your beige cardie.
And where I've got 2 beige cardies.
Really?
People
This is a
sent them to
confession.
me. People sent. I've got a sleeveless and a sleeve.
But do you wear them?
I do. My girls fall about the house, and I love California very much, and I've got great pals there, and I feel it's. In this advanced stage of my life, I have found that the world is about people. I like places where there are people that I like. And I don't care about places where there's nobody that I like.
No, sure. But you must, when you're sitting there in the beige cardie, or not sort of being boring and smoking the cigars, you must, and it's one of those standard questions, but in a way one has to ask it of you more than anyone else. You must pinch yourself. You must think, my God, I've come a long way. I could still be
Indeed.
a welder on Clydeside.
Yeah. I stand on my deck looking down San Fernando Valley. Or when we arrive in Scotland and we drive up the driveway of my place, it's a big long driveway with those stone mushrooms, coming up. And then this big house at the end with turrets and flags and all, and rolling, and a loch in the garden.
You're a laird.
Yeah, I'm the laird, I didn't know. Well, I'm not a laird in as much as it used to be the laird's house, and up there they call me the laird for a laugh, But I got a letter the other day from one of the lairds, and it was about for money for the local church. The roof has fallen in or something, and he said, "It's up to yourself." But most of the lairds, like I was included. I don't want to be a laird. It's against everything I ever stood for in my life. I don't mind people kidding on, but give me a break.
Go on,
This is something very dear to my heart. It's by Bob Devereux and Clive Palmer. Now, Clive is a wonderful banjo player, and he was part of the incredible string band in the 70s they just blew me away. And this is a piece called The Morris Room, written by Bob Devereux, who's doing the talking on here.
Placed on a large green cushion in the Morris Room, together in the lamplight on the sofa, we make such a charming picture. We should stay this way.
Morris Room, sung by Bob Devereux and Clive Palmer on the banjo, yeah?
Yes, that was him just plonking away at the background there.
Now, Billy, you've got plenty of rules you live by. Let me read some to you.
Oh, yeah.
Clean your teeth and keep the company of people who'll tell you when you've got spinach in them. Sleep with somebody you like. If you haven't heard a good rumour by 11 in the morning, start one, and so on. None of these things can you do on a desert island.
Yeah.
You can't do any of them.
I don't
it's
care.
Going to be, don't you?
No.
Well, forget about the rules on the desert island.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it.
I am going to love it. Well, I love Pam and the girls, and I love spending time with them. It makes me very happy. But when I've been alone, like on tour, I've spent an awful lot of my life alone. And I like it I'm never lonely. I'm never lonely. Sometimes I think about Pam and the girls, and I wish they were there, and I wish they could see things that I'm seeing, and I call them most days, probably every day. But I love being alone. I like it.
But if you were there without, with no end, you're just stuck on this island alone, left to your own devices.
Surely you can make a wee raft or something and go and visit somebody, like Polynesian people go and discover New Zealand. I don't know. Surely you could chop a tree down and sail somewhere. I could fish. I fish really quite well. I wouldn't starve.
And you could have nice long lie-ins, which is what you like.
I love lying long. Yeah. Scarlett, my youngest daughter, she wrote a wee poemette about me, and she says, "My daddy lies long in his bed, he listens to the Grateful Dead." That's the opening line.
Tell me about your last record.
Oh, now this is by Roy Orbison, and I had the great privilege of meeting him in an elevator in Sydney, Australia. This is Only the Lonely. And I love it. It was always the last record at the dancing. This was the cheek to cheek. And you moved her hands behind your neck and you put your hands on her bum and you were face to face. And I'll never forget the smell of makeup and the hair. And it was so sexy and wonderful.
Roy Orbison and Only the Lonely. It's going home time. Which one of the 8 would you take if you could only take one?
I think it would be Hank Williams.
That Lonesome Blues.
Long Gone Lonesome Blues, yeah.
What about your book? You've got the Bible and you've got Shakespeare.
Yeah, can I have a dictionary? Could I have the Oxford Dictionary?
What you going to do with that?
It's everything, isn't it? Yeah.
And your luxury?
Could I have my banjo? Yeah, that would be great. But does that work as a luxury? Because it's like a toolbox to me, but...
No, as long as you're not going to kind of float away on it.
Oh, no, I wouldn't float away on it. I would strum my banjo on the beach.
Billy Connolly, thank you very much indeed for letting us hear your Desert Island Discs.
Thank you very much indeed. It's such a pleasure.
You've been listening to a podcast from the Desert Island Discs archive. For more podcasts, please visit bbc.co.uk/Radio4.